76% of Americans literally say they consider a company's commitment to sustainability and ethical practices as really
Wow.
important, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And so it's important that brands are transparent about really their sourcing and their manufacturing practices and accurately promote the authenticity of that to their customers.
Hello and welcome to the Retail Podcast. I had the opportunity to sit down with their CEO, Mr. Keith Nealon. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
And thank God, if you ever watch any of these episodes, that's the first little stumble for myself, is to make sure I've got the right name, the right person at the right time. So, Keith, before I sort of dive into some of the questions that I have for you, I was just wondering, would you mind giving us a 5-minute helicopter view of yourself, how you came to Bazaarvoice, and your focus as CEO right now?
Sure. Well, if you're a connoisseur of accents like your own, I'm not from the US. I'm originally from Ireland, but I moved to the US about 20 years ago. And in that time, I've been an executive in many SaaS or cloud software companies, all with a passion for helping executive teams and their organizations drive business success in different industries. My favorite being in the marketing space. So Bazaarvoice. So again, in many companies, 5 years ago, I joined Bazaarvoice as their CEO, and it's been a fantastic ride. And essentially, what Bazaarvoice does is we help literally over 14,000 brands, help about 2.5 billion consumers a month literally discover, research, and find their next product purchase. And we do that with software and what we call a content supply chain that helps marketers with their consumers' journey from the discovery of their product, which might be on a social platform, to the purchase of their product, which might be on a retailer's e-commerce site, and that entire journey in whatever way the consumer wants to travel that journey. And in a chief marketing officer's ideal world, their consumers do the talking for them. So because we are leaders in ratings and reviews and user-generated content, which is the voice of the customer, we harness that voice of the customer and promote that voice in all of those marketing and content assets across our customers' platforms so that they can accelerate their success by literally letting their customers do the talking for them.
That sounds incredible. So you must have an immense access or a wealth of consumer data that probably you're seeing little signals as it goes through your platform. I'm just wondering, in the wake of all the changing dynamics and everything else that's going on, whether it's cost of living, inflation, what are you seeing in terms of how this relates to retail acceleration, or how your customers, partners can use this data to accelerate, or what are the things you're seeing?
Yeah, it's true. We have a ton of consumer data, as you'd imagine. And so we leverage our consumers and our community several times a year to not just we gather data automatically, but we survey them. And we released 2 main reports this year and detailing shifting consumer behaviors under a number of factors. So pandemic recovery was one, macroeconomics was another, and just that sort of surge in digital first social shopping. And so the first of those reports is called the Shopper Experience Index, and it's available on our website, where it said about 73% of consumers we surveyed reported adjustments in their spending because of the current economic conditions and thus their quest for value. And so more than 2/3, literally 70%, said they're open to exploring alternative brands for products that they regularly purchase, largely for, value for money. So we saw that 34% actively seek out private label goods from retailers because they offer great value for money and are increasingly, in their view, the consumer view, a credible alternative to national brands. So that was one thing. In our shopper preference report, as more workplaces adopt hybrid working models, and about 2/3 of US consumers have returned to a physical office for at least part of the work week. Therefore, consumers are recalibrating spending habits associated with that, right? So we saw about now 30% of consumers prefer to spend online 41% favor in-store spending, and 29% find online and in-store spending to be, in terms of their division, very similar. But we're seeing a shift more to digital because folks are busier. And then Gen Z, just as a demographic, what we're noticing with their purchase behaviors, it's not unique to them, but they have the highest preference for watching online videos about products and online creator content to help them make purchase decisions.
Okay, so that's interesting. I mean, you can laugh at this. I remember reading how for UGC, I'm smiling because I don't know if it's embarrassing to admit to or not, but there's a lack of men in my demographic and age group creating UGC content. So I was like, oh, I wonder if that's something to get into as well as the podcast and insight world. But obviously, UGC or user generated content is my understanding is core to your offering, but it is a minefield, and I think there's been some great examples of why it's a minefield. But what advice would you have for retailers to help them navigate the UGC minefield to build trust, to build drive in growing sales, and obviously becoming more competitive online in general?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's not just core, as you say, UGC or user-generated content to our offering. It's the very essence of what we do. There's two types.
Am I right? Just to interrupt you, is it right that there is a lack of men in their upper echelons?
I like that, upper echelons, like myself, maybe.
You should be creating UGC content.
Inherent, like sort of gut feel, I want to say yes, but one of our products, Vibe, has such an amazing AI search engine that if we said, give me Irish and British guys, right, from that part of the world that are in their 50s plus, that are experts on fly fishing and specifically XYZ fish, you can literally pull out whatever that number is, 55.
Incredible, right?
Yeah. So we have a great engine for navigating that challenge in Vibe. But to your question, really, there's two types of content, right? Most marketers are very used to and comfortable with creating brand-owned content, right? Using their teams, their agencies to create brand-owned content. It's very important. It's what is this product? What does it do? Yeah. User-generated content is really the voice of the customer, right? What are consumers saying? It's far more powerful than brand marketing to the consumer because 84% of consumers are more likely to trust a brand's marketing campaign if it features UGC, and 77% are more likely to buy the product they found through UGC. And we see that in our data. So in terms of building trust, which you talked about, consumers simply trust other consumers more than they trust brands. It's a deeply rooted psychological thing.
Yeah.
And so UGC content shows how actual people are using products in real world settings. That creates an authenticity for brands and allows them to promote products without being sort of overly salesy. And, it's amazing stat, 85% of consumers say they'll turn to visual UGC rather than branded content when making purchasing decisions. So you see this imbalance where there's more budget for branded content, but the consumer preference is for user-generated content. So number one, it really helps drive trust. The second is it drives sales. So when you look at our data from, as I said, 14,000 brands, 2.5 billion consumers a month, on average, we see 144% lift in conversion rate when shoppers engage with UGC and 162% lift in revenue per visitor. And so for brands, they should really, if they don't already, start developing a UGC marketing strategy that will help them search, curate, and publish the most effective voice of customer UGC for their brand. And that's where we can help. So I mentioned Vibe already, right? It's one of our new product launches. It's designed to help marketers source, amplify, and optimize everyday shopper and creator content across all channels where a brand may want consumers to discover or purchase their product, all from one place. And as I said earlier, right, given the preference for UGC, as one CMO said recently, the nirvana is when the consumer can do the talking for you. So as a brand, if you can relinquish control of all that branded content and allow your consumers to do more of the content creation. There's usually far more content from them you can create at scale that drives this trust and sales. And so we help brands achieve that nirvana of leveraging the voice of customer to do the talking for you.
I, I'm just thinking about, you mentioned about AI earlier on in terms of how your product uses AI to sort of navigate the route to finding that specific UGC person that's relevant to your brand. I'm just thinking about the role of AI, and as a leader, as the CEO of your business, how do you see the role of AI in terms of helping your customers, or you as a business leader using AI for your business? I'm just curious if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we've been leveraging AI for years, and more recently, generative AI. Obviously with the launch of Gen AI in the last couple of years. So generally, though, even though we have our own ideas, we partner closely with our brands to keep a pulse on consumer behavior that helps inform where we may take innovations with AI. And so we have a engine within our platform called Harmony AI, which is the broad engine of AI. But within that, there are several components. So, for example, Content Coach is one of those components. And we saw in our research 67% of consumers expressed interest in having e-commerce sites that offer AI-powered coaching tools to assist them in leaving high-quality product reviews. Think about it, right? Like if you or I bought mayonnaise,
Yeah.
what do you say about mayonnaise, right? And so for me to say tastes great isn't necessarily a helpful review. So by understanding the voice of customer and what people are saying, we can say, oh, what would be helpful is if you talk about taste, smell, texture, things like that. And therefore you're not telling someone what to write, but you're giving them ideas of themes that might make sense, versus for a clothing item, it's fit to size and other things, right? Colors or whatever. So we use the AI engine to help folks think about what they might want to use in a review to be helpful. Another thing, for example, we have literally, as I said, about more than 10 billion pieces of UGC and counting, and we leverage all of that data every month. As we're creating hundreds of millions of pieces of new content, how can we help our brands and therefore their customers do more? So Content Coach is one example. Another is just product matching. So yes, you're talking about a review to do with Hellmann's mayonnaise, right? But Hellmann's mayonnaise has got to be sold at, hundreds of retailers around the world. So you've got to match that Hellmann's, 50-ounce jar is the same 50-ounce jar at Walgreens, at Target, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. On the world, at Sainsbury's, et cetera. So sometimes the matching of those, what we call GTIN numbers, is out of sync between brands and retailers. So we are able to use AI by looking at what the product is, the image and everything, to do better product matching. So there's no orphaning of products, and thus those reviews get matched to the right product and they get out to the right retailers as fast as possible. We also use AI, for example, if you're going to be a shopper that's posting about, just really cool pair of jeans, let's say they're Levi's jeans, our AI can actually tell if your image is, and you posted it and tagged Levi's, is on brand for what style Levi's likes. So we'll surface that into our Bazaarvoice Vibe platform for the Levi's team to leverage and say, yeah, this is a really cool UGC image that we could leverage for product discovery or product purchase. The other thing, there's many of these things we do, is if you think about you could have hundreds of thousands of customers writing reviews about your products if you're a large enough business. You can't read all those reviews. So we use AI for sentiment analysis. So we'll tell you what are the top positive things that consumers are saying at scale about your product, and what are the top challenging or negative things. And you might want to say, okay, for the top positive things, we might want to turn or leverage the consumer's voice in our marketing, right?
Got you.
So for example, we saw consumers in the camera space talking about rugged cameras. And one of our clients didn't ever use the term rugged. So they started rewriting their brand content with the term rugged. And between our content and theirs, they did better for SEO ranking in Google for rugged cameras. And found that drove sales. For the negative comments or challenging, it might be about the product. You can feed those to your R&D organization to produce a next Rev 2, right, of that product. And that stimulates product innovation. And then we do a lot of things around workflow to help our brands be more efficient by automatically suggesting captions for new products and photos based on the voice of the customer, intelligently offering answers to consumer questions based on the database of previously compiled answers to similar questions, all in ways to just help our clients become more effective. So a whole range of things under that Harmony AI engine umbrella.
Wow. I've got to be honest, I wasn't expecting that in terms of, and I'm hoping I've got the right term. It's like social listening on steroids, right? You are absolutely bringing that invisible narrative that's going to allow me to execute faster and more effectively with my dollars that I'm spending to make sure that I'm getting a return on that. I've got two questions that I'd like to ask you. And because of time, I'll let you decide which one you answer, or if you want to answer both of them. I just want to be respectful to your time. The first one is about sustainability and ethical consumerism. I don't know how much of a Gen Z, Gen X thing that is, or it's a societal thing, but I'll be curious in your opinion. And the thing that I'd really like to know is about the future of where you see the industry of this marketplace, where it's going. So they're the two questions.
Okay.
Choose from.
Let me start with the sustainability question. I think, everybody cares more now than ever before. 76% of Americans literally say they consider a company's commitment to sustainability and ethical practices as really important, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And so it's important that brands are transparent about really their sourcing and their manufacturing practices, and accurately promote the authenticity of that to their customers. So how can we help? Like, ratings and reviews actually help reduce return rates, for example, which is incredibly unsustainable, right? Because you're helping a shopper make a more confident and informed purchase in the first place. Through sentiment analysis, which I mentioned, we could pick up any thoughts consumers offer you on sustainability and suggest those either for your marketing or for product improvement. And through Content Coach, as I mentioned, we can help consumers write reviews where we nudge the consumer to talk, if it's important and relevant, about sustainability practices. Not in terms of what to say, but just that might be a category of what they will offer in the review. Maybe, talking about, say, biodegradable packaging or something like that. So definitely important. Probably more important, we're seeing in Gen Z, but really important to the majority of, say, folks in the US, where we not surprise me, the world. In terms of the future of the industry, you'll see shopping for our customers is becoming more complicated, right? It used to be you went to Google, you searched for a product, you went to the retailer's website or the brand's website and you made a purchase. Now there are more and more places to discover products, from social media platforms to commerce clouds, to your brand side, to the retailer side, to new technology marketplaces, not just like, say, Walmart's marketplace, but like DoorDash, for example, sells products now. It doesn't just deliver food. So the amount of places where you have people discovering and buying your product is vastly more diversified and complicated, and marketers have to try and manage all of that. And it will increase. But in order to succeed, you have to be where consumers are aggregating and looking to discover products. So we see that, and we're really building a platform for the future where the puck is going, which is a more social shopping world.
I love it. Keith, this has actually been for me, a fascinating and eye-opening interview into the world of UGC and how, you can actually do social listening, or almost to find that needle in a haystack, which is very difficult to do. Thank you so much for giving up your time and being with us today.
It's been a great pleasure, Alex. Thanks so much.